He was a killer with the ultimate cover. As a base commander in the Canadian Air Force, Colonel Russel Williams comforted families of the fallen, rubbed shoulders with the Prime Minister, and even flew planes for the Queen. But no one, including his wife, knew that he was also a sexual deviant, burglar, rapist, and murderer. And today, what began as fetish and fantasy led to a life sentence of solitary misery. For more than 20 years, he was a model airman and husband, described as a bright, shining star of the Canadian Air Force. Tonight, he is the most notorious pervert, rapist, and serial killer in recent Canadian history. After 4 days of stomach-churning evidence led to a life sentence, a nation wonders how this married colonel could have led such a deplorable double life.
How could anybody do such a horrible, horrible thing?
Over his flawless career, Russel Williams rose from decorated pilot to commander of support missions in Afghanistan and became the man in charge of Canada's largest and busiest airbase. But through those years of overachievement, there were urges. And 5 years ago, at age 42, he began acting on his fetish for women's underclothes by breaking into homes of strangers and acquaintances alike to dress up, masturbate, and steal samples for his personal collection.
You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I have never been interviewed like this.
Oh, no? Okay.
More than 80 of his home invasions went unsolved until 27-year-old Jessica Lloyd disappeared in January. Detectives found distinctive tire and boot tracks near her home, and a week later, a sharp-eyed officer noticed the suspicious tread matched the tires on Williams' SUV.
This is a photocopy of the boot that you took off your foot.
Yeah.
Just a little while ago, okay?
When his boots matched as well, detectives were certain they had their man.
We need to have some honesty, okay? Because this is getting out of control really fast, Russell. Okay, really, really fast. This is getting beyond my control. All right, I came in here a few hours ago and I called you the way I called you today because I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I both know you were at Jessica Lloyd's house, and I need to know why.
Williams sat frozen in the interrogation room, agonizing his own fate. But eventually, he came clean, and over a 10-hour confession described 2 rapes, 82 burglaries, and the murders of both Lloyd and 37-year-old Corporal Marie-France Camus.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you like or dislike these women?
I didn't know any of them.
In both cases, he tied them up, beat and raped them repeatedly for hours while recording it all on video. On one occasion, he stopped to actually adjust the lighting while ignoring his victim's pleas. "If I die," Lloyd cries out on video, "will you make sure to let my mom know that I love her?"
Well, let's talk about Jessica, because she was there with you for the whole day, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of feelings were you experiencing while you were with her that day?
Oh, she was a very nice girl.
Can you tell me why you killed her? Right? Do you know why you killed her?
Well, I think I killed her because I knew that her story would be recognized.
Her story would be recognized? How do you mean?
Well, because she knew I was taking pictures.
He seems to be intact enough to realize that this is embarrassing and that he would have some shame at acknowledging fully that he did these things, in contrast to a total psychopath that would be ebullient and almost triumphant in saying, "Yeah, I did this to her and bitch deserved it."
Dr. Michael Stone is a forensic psychiatrist who studied and cataloged hundreds of deviant killers for his book, The Anatomy of Evil. So you have how many different gradations of evil? 22?
22.
And where does he fit on the evil chart?
Either 18, which is moderately prolonged torture, or 22 for considerably prolonged and very agonizing. So high up on the scale.
Worst of the worst.
Yes.
Dr. Stone says Williams may be the most highly functioning serial killer he has ever seen, and his military discipline actually helped him lead 2 separate lives. He's also unique in that he started his crimes later in life, and he's among the very few serial killers who like to pose in women's clothing, Dennis Rader, the notorious BTK killer who murdered 10 in Kansas, was another.
Yes, I had some sexual fantasies, and I took her to the basement and eventually hung her.
But while BTK never expressed remorse, Williams did display empathy for his wife during his confession.
What made you decide to tell me this tonight?
Mostly to make my wife's life easier.
And he sniffled in court as he told the judge, quote, "I have committed despicable crimes, Your Honor. In the process, betrayed my family, my friends, and colleagues on the Canadian Forces."
The ability to talk about these things with remorse is very uncommon. Psychopaths it's one of the key ingredients is not to have remorse. Even Jeffrey Dahmer, who was not a full, flat-out psychopath, had some measure of remorse when he was put in prison and so on.
I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Now I believe I was sick.
So where does the science stand on nature versus nurture in this particular case? You seem to think that he was hardwired for this sort of brand of evil. It wasn't beaten into him by abusive parents.
Right.
Is there a section of the brain that he's lacking? Is he lacking the empathy gene?
He may have a deficiency in the certain areas of the brain if the parents beat the heck out of the kid or there was terrible neglect. So there are some environmental forces that may make the person more inclined to crime, but those forces don't make a person a paraphilic. That those forces make the person more inclined to violent crime, perhaps, but not to the sexual paraphilia, which is wired in from the get-go.
Though his parents split when he was young, there was no evidence of abuse, as Williams excelled in expensive schools. Yet another detail to make him the subject of fascination for criminal scientists and the object of loathing for everyone else.
We want him locked in there till the day he dies.
How do you feel about what you've done? Like what?
Disappointed.
Given the risk of retribution from other prisoners, Williams began his sentence in solitary today, and a bit later he will be court-martialed and stripped of his colonel's stripes.